Hey guys, in this video, we're taking a look at some really dirty carpets and some extreme carpet cleaning and extraction, and we're going to talk about the business side of actually talking to a customer, making sure that you don't leave them disappointed after a job like this. It's going to be really important, so stick around till the end. But before we get started, make sure you guys go below in the YouTube description box and grab my free guide to starting your auto detailing business for under $500, where I lay out every single tool and product that you need if you're starting in the business or if you've been in the business, but you need a fundamental foundational list of tools and products. Make sure to go grab that list below. So just to set up the context here, guys, what I'm doing is detailing a 2010 Yukon that's getting ready to be sold. Now, my customer called me and asked if I would do a full interior detail. Well, what ended up happening is rather than doing the entire interior, I am only detailing out the carpets, because the carpets are the majority of the dirt, the majority of the nastiness here, and it's also going to make the majority of the car look really good and detailed when I'm done. This is one of those awesome win-wins in the detailing world, and one of the reasons why you have to be so adaptable in the detailing world, because some guys are sticking with their detailing ego and they're saying, well, I can either do all of this or none of this. Whereas in this particular situation, not only did my customer get what she wanted, meaning the car is going to look really good and have a lot of curb appeal for when it's ready to sell, but I also get what I wanted in a simpler job, a more straightforward job, but still a $200 job. So you guys can see how this is an extremely profitable thing, but it's also a win-win for me and my customer. Now let's go ahead and get into the physical part of this. You see me using this round drill brush. This is one of the drill brushes that is available in the new Wilson Auto Detailing drill brush set. It is not yet on Amazon, but it is about to be available. So it's not yet available, but very, very close. Now, I'm using a product from Renegade, their detailer series. You guys know I basically default to most of their products in my detailing world these days. It's just one of their degreasers. It's called Knockout, and that's what I'm using in these little housing, this plastic housing where the back seats clip in. Before I get into the carpets, I always want to clean that area as much as I possibly can. So it's really as simple as a drill brush, a chemical, and steaming it to blow everything out and rinse everything. Now, getting into the carpet itself, this is where I'm going to start pulling out some better tools, better products. This is going to be a bit of a more expensive tool and product job, meaning you need a bit more expensive equipment to do this, but we'll get to that in a second as well. Now, I'm using my pump sprayer because I'm going to be using so much chemical in this job that I don't want to have to be, wearing out my forearm, pressing a trigger over and over again. It's also a really good way for me to soak the carpet in cleaner. You guys see that I'm really using a lot of cleaner, and that is because this is an extreme job, as you guys are going to see. Now, when I get finished spraying the chemical all over the carpet and I divide the carpet up into sections, I'm taking my steamer with the nylon bristle head attached to it, and basically what I'm doing here is two different things. Number one, I'm heating it up at a very, very high temperature. This is obviously going to loosen the dirt, loosen the stains, loosen the fibers of the carpet itself, because this carpet has been matted down over time. It's never been detailed out like this. And so when dirt gets in there from the bottom of your shoes, from spills, from toting kids around, and then on top of that, the fibers get pressed down and pressed down and pressed down over time, those fibers begin to wear, they begin to kind of diminish. You end up having damage issues, not just detailing issues, but the steamer really kind of revitalizes the fibers in a lot of ways. It's just yet another reason why I think the steamer is absolutely the first tool that a detailer should invest in when it comes to the more expensive side of detailing. The second thing that's happening here is I'm introducing water. Now, why is that important? Well, in introducing the water at a really high temperature, you can see the suds that I'm creating in the carpet, and it's getting really, really wet. Now, normally this would not be my approach, but I do kind of reserve extreme measures for extreme times. And because I'm going to be extracting the carpet at a really high level, that's why I'm taking this approach. Now, it's worth really dissecting what this approach means and what it means for you, because what you're going to see here is, yes, I'm extracting it, but really what this process looks like is not just your traditional extraction. I'm going to very literally hold down the spray trigger to the extractor, spraying water the entire time into the carpets, the entire time that I'm running the vacuum head over the carpets. Basically, this is my rinsing stage of the carpet cleaning, okay? Now, this is a time-consuming part of this whole process. This rinsing, kind of extracting phase is going to be undoubtedly the most time-consuming, and it is worth kind of noting that the video does make it look a little faster. Of course, I cut it, I speed it up, I edit it, but this was absolutely fairly time-consuming because essentially what's happening is I've introduced so much chemical that the force, the downward force, and I kind of zoom into this particular scene and show you guys as I'm extracting, I'm pushing and pulling foam out of the carpet. So each time I run over the carpet, more suds and more foam is getting stirred up. This is my favorite way to approach really dirty carpets. And basically what this allows me to do is just, rather than light repeated applications, which is not going to work for a vehicle in this condition and carpet in this condition, I'm basically, taking the most extreme measures that I can here. Now, I am using a really fantastic carpet shampoo that I will hook up in the YouTube description box below this video, along with the other tools and products like the extractor that I'm using here. Now, as you guys continue to watch, I do want to mention this. For those of you looking to get an extractor or thinking about getting an extractor, absolutely, this job would have been completely impossible for me to take on when it comes to the carpets without an extractor. So there are situations in the detailing world where if you do not have a tool like this, you'll literally be forced to say no, you're not going to be able to get it done. But even as I'm doing this in the video, and even though it's sped up a little bit, you guys can see how that discoloration is beginning to go away as I suck all of that chemical and rinse it all out of the fibers of the carpet. It's restoring it back to that original gray color that it ought to look like, and definitely bringing back a much lighter appearance. Now, this particular extractor is the Mighty Light 8070 heated carpet extractor, and of course I'm going to hook up a link to this, but I do want to mention there is another extractor that I posted about just a couple days ago called the Aqua Pro Vac, and that is the extractor that I began detailing with when I really started taking on a bit dirtier jobs and started saying yes to these things. The Aqua Pro Vac is a $500 extractor, and the one I'm using here, the Mighty Light 8070, is an $1,100 extractor. So it's about half the price, a little less than half the price actually. And so I'm going to hook up links to both of those so you can see them. But for those of you beginning or starting out, or who have never really invested heavily into a big tool like this, or you're on a shoestring budget, I would absolutely suggest the Aqua Pro Vac extractor because it's at a great price and it will take you a very, very long way. It'll take you very far in the detailing world. Now back to this. I'm now moving to the second section. You can see I've removed the third row of seats out of the vehicle because it just makes my life easier. Now, generally speaking, with a job like this, I would remove the bucket seats as well, but because of the way the bucket seats fold up, there's absolutely no reason to do that because they're not, basically with them sitting there folded down and up, they're not blocking any part of the carpet, so I can easily reach and access every single part of the carpet with the seats being there, so I'm not going to create more work for myself. Now, once again, you see me repeating this process over again. I'm creating a ton of foam and a ton of suds, and essentially, this is kind of like those times when I take the removable floor mats, I take my pressure washer to it, my drill brushes, and I just soak it in chemical and I rinse it all out. That's what I'm doing here. It just is more time consuming because I obviously cannot take a pressure washer to the inside of a car, but that's where the extractor comes in. It works as that rinsing agent. And this is one of those things where I want to make sure I'm moving in the right sequence because obviously this is a very dirty job, as you can see. There's water getting everywhere, there's suds getting everywhere, chemical, steam, all of that stuff. And it's why I systematically work backwards in a situation like this where I'm just focusing on the carpets and I'm only doing this part of the vehicle. I want to make sure that I don't have to go back over things. I talk about this all the time, but this is literally the standard way I approach every situation like this. I'm always starting in the trunk and moving inward because, as you can see, I stood outside of the trunk on the ground to address the first part. Now I can get in the back area with those bucket seats flipped up. I can have the bottom of my shoes on that part of the carpet because I haven't cleaned it yet. So I'm sitting and standing on a dirty area of the carpet and cleaning this second part of the trunk underneath those seats that needs to be cleaned. Then I'm going to be able to address the area where I'm standing just by standing outside of each back door. So that way I'm not having to go back over things, and it becomes very, very easy to address the carpet without me having to go step on stuff that's already been cleaned or get overspray on areas that's already been cleaned, all that sort of stuff. Now, moving back to the extractor, you guys see I stirred up a ton of foam, a ton of suds, introduced a ton of liquid, and now I am rinsing it. One of the huge advantages here is the heated part of the extractor. Not only am I introducing a ton of high temperature steam with my steamer, but I'm introducing a very high temperature water or rinsing agent with my extractor. Now, I don't always think that a heated carpet extractor is necessary, but once again, this job is very characteristic of one of those things where you're going to want to say no to it if you don't have the right carpet extraction tools, products, and all those sort of things that takes a bit of an investment to make sure you get into. Now, I am going to empty it out here because obviously it gets full over time, but you guys can see how dirty that water is and how really just disgusting that is. That's called years of grease and grime piled up in a car. Now, the great thing here, and I want to get a touch on this just a second before we close out. My customer wanted the full interior detail done, but because of the nature of her description, because of the pictures, because of what I knew I was getting into based on just my own experience, the past decade running a detailing business, I knew it would be more of a win-win if I simply did the carpet and left the rest to kind of just stay the same, give it some curb appeal before it's going on and being sold. And that created a great win-win, not only for me, but also for my customer, keeping it in a price range that worked for her, as well as a price range that's very profitable for me as a business owner. And this is something to really consider as you guys move forward in your detailing businesses, how to create these win-wins, because if I were to do the entire interior here, I would have spent all day at this customer's house. But rather than do that, I created a hyper-profitable situation where I got in and out in a very timely manner. Now, just to repeat one more time, if you guys want more specificity with the products and the tools that I used here, go below in the YouTube description box. All of those products and tools will be listed out really clearly. And while you're there, make sure you do not leave before you grab my free guide to starting your auto detailing business for less than $500. I promise, learn from my mistakes. Don't do trial and error and make your own mistakes. Go below, get the guide, and learn from my mistakes so you don't waste time and money. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the Wilson Auto Detailing community, make sure you smash the subscribe button and tap the bell icon. And as always, guys, I appreciate your involvement, and I will see you in the next video.